I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I married Amanda about 6 months ago after being with her for close to 3 years. We had a pretty normal relationship, or so I thought. She was smart, beautiful, and a bit of a bitch sometimes, typical girl with a sharp tongue and a way of always making me feel like I was lucky just to be with her. Honestly, I always found her a little high maintenance, but I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Things started feeling off about a month ago. She'd go out for work dinners more often, and her excuses were always the same. "It's just work, Mike, you're overthinking it." She'd come home late, smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, and her phone was glued to her hand more than usual. I'd catch her hiding her screen when I walked into the room, or she'd get defensive if I tried to look at her messages. Honestly, she was starting to act suspicious, but I kept telling myself I was just paranoid. Girls can be flaky, right? Especially when they work for some big shot CEO who's known to be a womanizer. But I wasn't stupid. I knew something was wrong. And then I started noticing the little things. Her phone would buzz constantly late at night, and she'd quickly lock it or turn it off. The way she'd clench her jaw when I asked about her day, or how she'd suddenly get defensive if I pressed her about where she was or who she was with. It was like walking on eggshells, but I didn't want to believe she could do something like cheat on me. We're engaged, for crying out loud. We had plans for a future. How could she do that? How could she lie so effortlessly? One night I was lying in bed scrolling through my own phone when I saw her text messages pop up on the lock screen. It was from her boss, Mark, a guy I'd always thought was a bit too smooth, but he was her boss, so I figured that was just part of his charm. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Last night was just a teaser. We're finally doing this for real." I froze. My heart started pounding. I didn't even know what to feel: anger, shock, betrayal. I sat there staring at that message like it was some cruel joke, and that was just the beginning. I started digging through her phone the next day because I couldn't believe what I'd seen. Her texts kept getting worse, more intimate, more secretive. She'd talk about how much she craved him, how she'd be lying if she said she wasn't thinking about him when we were supposed to be planning our wedding. She even sent pictures, nothing explicit but enough to make me want to throw up. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive, to think she was the girl I was about to marry. When I confronted her with the evidence, she spun some bullshit about how it was just sex, how Mark was just a fling and I was overreacting. She called me insecure, said I was jealous because I didn't have her attention. But I knew better. I knew that girl, and I knew that look in her eye when she was lying. I'd caught her, and I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. The betrayal cut so deep I didn't know if I could breathe. The worst part, she didn't even seem sorry. She just shrugged and said, "You're making a big deal out of nothing," like I was the crazy one. That girl, I don't even know her anymore. I felt the walls closing in, this mix of rage and sadness and disbelief. I kept thinking, how could she do this? After everything. After we planned a life together. This was the moment I realized my entire world had been turned upside down. Everything I thought I knew about her, about us, was a lie. And I was left standing there, more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. I didn't sleep that night, just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about the betrayal and what it meant for me and for us. The days that followed were a blur. I didn't even bother hiding how I felt anymore. I was furious, hurt, and completely disillusioned. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see it coming. Amanda, my fiancée, had always been pretty good at hiding her true colors. She's the kind of girl who can lie with a smile on her face and make you doubt your own instincts. She's bitchy, manipulative, and totally self-centered. The kind of person who'd burn a bridge just to watch it fall. And I realized she'd been doing just that behind my back. I remember the day I finally broke down and confronted her face to face. I told her I knew everything about the texts, the secret meetings, the lies. Her reaction: she smirked. That stupid, bitchy smirk that just made me want to punch her in the face. She spun some more lies about how Mark is just a boss, how it was just sex, it doesn't mean anything, and how I was insecure for suspecting her. She told me I was crazy for thinking she'd cheat on me before we even got married. It was all bullshit. She swore she loved me, that I was the only one, that she'd never do anything to ruin us. But I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. I saw her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative woman who'd throw me under the bus in a heartbeat if it suited her. I felt the rage boiling up inside me. How dare she lie so effortlessly? How dare she cheat on me and then act like I'm the problem? I wanted to tear her apart right there, but I knew that wouldn't solve anything. Honestly, I just felt broken. I trusted her, loved her, and she'd played me for a fool. The emotional toll was heavy. I went from feeling angry and betrayed to feeling numb. I'd wake up in the middle of the night sweating, replaying everything in my head. I felt humiliated, like a fool who'd been duped by someone he thought was his future wife. I kept asking myself if I could ever trust anyone again. Was I just so blind that I didn't see her true nature? Every time I looked at her, I saw a girl I once loved, but now all I saw was a liar and a user. I tried to talk to some friends about it, but no one really knew what to say. Most of them told me I should just walk away, forget her, move on. But I couldn't do that. Not yet. I needed to understand why she did it, what her real motives were. Part of me still hoped she'd come clean or at least apologize sincerely. But she never did. Instead, she doubled down, pretending like I was overreacting, like I was the one making a mountain out of a molehill. She kept insisting she loved me, but her actions told a different story. I started thinking about revenge. Not just the typical dump her or cheat back, but something more calculated. I wanted her to feel the pain I was going through. I wanted her to see how it felt to be betrayed, to be lied to be used and discarded like garbage. I didn't want just to walk away. I wanted to make her regret everything she'd done. And that's when I started planning. I wasn't sure what form it would take, but I knew I had to do something, something that would hit her where it hurt, make her realize she can't screw around and get away with it. Honestly, part of me wanted to destroy her. I wanted her to see that she couldn't cheat on someone like me, who was loyal, who gave her everything. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, and humiliated just like I felt when I found out. But I also knew that revenge, if not handled carefully, could just make things worse. Still, I didn't care about morality right now. All I cared about was making her pay, making her understand that there are consequences for betrayal. I started gathering evidence, planning how I'd confront her again, but this time with proof, with a plan to make her face the fallout. I didn't want a messy breakup. I wanted her to see the full extent of her lies. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't some dumb guy she could just walk all over. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, and I was determined to get some kind of justice, even if that meant tearing everything apart in the process. That's where I am now, just waiting for the right moment to strike, wondering how she'll react when she finds out I know everything. I don't have a clear ending in mind yet, but I do know one thing. I'm not going to be the fool anymore. The girl I loved is gone, replaced by someone I barely recognize, and I'm about to make her regret every lie she ever told me. After I collected enough evidence, screenshots of her texts, some of her secret emails, even a few recordings I managed to secretly make, I realized I had everything I needed. The plan was swirling in my mind, becoming clearer with each passing hour. I knew I couldn't just confront her outright. She was the kind of person who'd deny everything, spin some story, and make me doubt myself again. No, I had to do it differently. I had to make her see that I knew everything, that I wasn't some naive fool anymore. One evening, I told her I needed to talk, just the two of us. She was already acting weird, defensive, trying to brush me off with her usual dismissiveness. I remember the smirk she gave me when she saw the serious look on my face. She thought she could just brush this under the rug, that I'd back down or forget it. But I wasn't about to let her do that. I sat her down in our living room, looked her straight in the eyes, and laid it all out, the messages, the emails, the recordings. I made her listen to every piece of evidence I had gathered. Her reaction. It was a mix of shock and outright anger. She sat there, mouth agape, trying to deny it all, but the words just wouldn't come out. When I told her I knew about her and Mark, her face twisted in a way I'd never seen before, like she was furious and embarrassed all at once. She tried to lie, said it was just a fling, just sex, that she didn't mean for me to find out. But I cut her off. I told her I wasn't interested in her excuses anymore. I wanted to hear the truth, plain and simple. What she said next was classic Amanda. She threw a tantrum, called me insecure, said I was jealous and paranoid. She yelled that I was ruining everything over some texts, that she loved me, that she was sorry she got caught, but that it didn't mean anything. I could see right through her. She was trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty or making me doubt myself. But I saw her for what she was, a lying, cheating bitch who thought she could get away with anything. Her voice was shrill, her eyes darting around, trying to find some way out of it. I felt my stomach turn. The anger was boiling, but I kept my tone steady. I told her I deserved better than a liar, a cheat, someone who'd betray me during our engagement. I told her I was done, that she wasn't the girl I thought she was, and that I wasn't going to be a part of her game anymore. I said I was leaving, that I'd take some time to think about what I wanted to do next. Her face turned red, her bitchiness bubbling over, but I didn't care. She was finally caught and cornered. There was no escape now. The emotional impact hit me hard as I walked away from that confrontation. I was pissed but also heartbroken. I'd loved her, yes, but I also hated her for what she'd done. The betrayal cut deep, worse than anything I'd ever experienced. It was like discovering a part of myself had been stolen and I didn't know if I'd ever recover from it. But I knew one thing: I couldn't stay with her. Not anymore. She'd shown her true colors and I couldn't ignore them. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the confrontation in my head, each moment worse than the last. The only thing I could think about was how much I'd trusted her and how she'd thrown it all away for some meaningless sex with her boss. It was humiliating. I felt used, like a puppet she'd pulled the strings on just to get what she wanted. I wondered how many nights she'd spent lying next to me, pretending everything was fine, while her mind was somewhere else, with Mark. The aftermath was a strange mix of relief and despair. I knew I had to move on, but I wasn't sure how. I started thinking about all the things I'd lost: my future, the girl I loved, the trust I once had. Part of me wanted to lash out, to make her regret everything, but another part just wanted to disappear. I knew I had a long road ahead of me, figuring out how to pick up the pieces and rebuild. I also knew I'd never trust her again, not fully. She'd broken that bond, that promise of loyalty, and I wasn't sure if I could forgive her even if I wanted to. I did what I always do in moments like this. I bottled up everything and pretended I was okay. Inside, I was a mess. I felt like I'd been kicked in the guts, left to drown in my own thoughts. I had to act like I was strong, like I was moving on, but I wasn't ready yet. I knew I'd carry this betrayal with me for a long time. I just hoped someday I could look back and see it as a lesson, that I'd come out of this smarter, tougher, and maybe even happier without someone like her dragging me down. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. I threw myself into work and tried to keep busy, but the betrayal lingered in the back of my mind like a constant shadow. Every time I saw her, the girl I once loved, her face still haunted me. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, so naive. How did I not see the signs? How did I let her manipulate me into planning a wedding with someone I didn't even know anymore? I began to realize that I'd been giving her too much of myself, expecting her to be loyal, to be honest, that I'd been stupid enough to think she was the one. Turns out she's just a selfish, bitchy girl who only cares about herself. That realization was both freeing and devastating. I mean, I'd built a future with her, had even started looking at rings, imagining a life together, and now I was here, completely shattered. It was like waking up from a nightmare where everything you believed in was just a lie. One day, I finally decided I needed to confront her again. This time, not just to yell or accuse, but to get some closure. I sent her a message asking to meet face to face. She responded with her usual attitude, sarcastic, dismissive, trying to turn it around like I was the one overreacting. I told her I needed to see her, that I had questions, that I deserved some answers. She agreed, but only because she thought she could manipulate the situation again, make me doubt myself, make me feel guilty. That's Amanda for you, always playing the victim. When she showed up, she looked worse for wear, eyes red, hair a mess. She tried to brush past me like nothing had happened. I blocked her way and told her I wasn't done. I had to hear her say it, had to hear her admit what she'd done, after some back end. Fourth, she finally threw out some half-hearted apologies, but I could see right through them. She wasn't genuinely sorry, she was just doing it to keep her options open or to manipulate me into forgiving her. Her words were empty, her eyes cold. She said she didn't mean for it to happen, that it was just sex, and that Mark was just a stupid mistake. Yeah, right. I felt my blood boil. That's when the anger hit me full force. I told her she was a liar and a cheat, that she'd played me for months, pretending to be the perfect fiancé while she was busy screwing her boss. I told her I wasn't interested in her excuses anymore. I wanted her to understand the damage she'd caused. She tried to act like I was overreacting, said she still loved me, but her words sounded hollow. Honestly, I didn't care about her feelings anymore. All I could think about was how much she'd betrayed me, how little she valued what we had. As I walked away from that meeting, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with heartbreak. I knew I was making the right decision to leave. I realized I'd been clinging to a fantasy, a version of us that never really existed. She was just a bitchy girl who liked to manipulate people and get what she wanted. She'd never change. She was just going to keep lying and cheating until she found someone else to use, and I wasn't going to be her next victim. But the emotional toll was heavy. I felt like I was losing a part of myself, my trust, my future, my sense of identity. I'd loved her, yes, but I'd also been incredibly naive. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. How could I not see the warning signs? How did I let her turn into this monster? It hurt knowing I'd been played like a fool. Every memory of us together now felt tainted, and I wondered if I'd ever be able to look at her the same way again. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The betrayal, the lies, the tears I'd shed. A part of me wanted to lash out, to do something reckless, but I knew that wouldn't do any good. All I could do now was focus on healing and moving forward. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about her cheating. This was about me learning to trust myself again, to stand taller, tougher, to realize that sometimes love isn't enough and that some people just aren't worth saving. I still felt betrayed, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd let her steal a part of me, but I was starting to get it back. One step at a time, I told myself. Rebuilding was going to be hard, but I had to do it, for me. The days turned into weeks, and I finally started to get a grip on my emotions. It wasn't easy. There were still moments where I'd wake up feeling like I'd been punched in the gut, or I'd see some reminder of her and feel that old wave of anger and betrayal coming back. But I told myself I couldn't let her have that power anymore. I had to move on, even if part of me still wanted to tear her apart. Deep down, I knew she didn't deserve my anger. She deserved nothing from me anymore. All she got was the bitter truth. And that was enough. I started focusing on myself. I hit the gym harder, threw myself into work, even took up some new hobbies. I didn't want her to have the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart, even if I was hurting inside. I also started seeing a therapist just to talk through everything. It helped. It really did. I realized I'd been giving her too much of my life, my trust, my love, and she'd just thrown it all back in my face. I had to rebuild that trust in myself first. That was the real challenge, learning that I could be okay without her. But I wasn't just about moving on. I knew I had to do something more, something that would hit her where it hurt, mainly to make her realize she couldn't keep screwing around and get away with it. That's when I started planning my revenge, not in some petty way, but in a way that would make her understand the damage she'd caused. I wanted her to see that she lost someone who truly cared, and that her actions had consequences. One night, I decided to send her a message. I kept it brief but pointed. I told her I knew about everything, about the affair, the lies, the manipulation. I told her I was done trying to save what we had because she'd already destroyed it. I told her I hoped she'd get what she wanted with Mark, but that she'd regret losing someone who truly loved her. I wanted her to feel a flicker of guilt, a sting of regret, not to ruin her, but to make her realize what she had lost. Her reaction was what I expected. She threw some tantrum, called me names, tried to guilt-trip me into coming back, but I didn't respond anymore. I knew she was just trying to control the situation, to make me second-guess myself, but I refused. I realized that no amount of her crying or begging would undo the damage or bring back the trust. I was done. She made her choice, and now it was my turn to make mine. That's when I started actively cutting ties. I blocked her on social media, changed my phone number, and even moved some of my stuff out of the apartment. I didn't want her to have any way of reaching me. I wanted to create some distance to give myself space to breathe and heal. The hardest part was knowing I'd probably never get the closure I really wanted. She'd never admit to what she did or apologize sincerely. But I also knew that I had to accept that some things can't be fixed, and that the best revenge was simply walking away and rebuilding my life without her. In the end, I learned a lot from all of this. About trust, about betrayal, about how some people will do anything for their own selfish desires. I learned that love isn't enough sometimes, that you have to be careful who you trust, and that you can't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. Most importantly, I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived this and I'm still standing. It's going to take time, but I'm going to be okay. Better than okay, I'm going to be better. So if anyone reading this is going through something similar, my advice is simple. Don't ignore the signs, trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to walk away. Some people are just not worth the pain, and you deserve someone who truly values you. Trust me, it hurts now. But you'll come out the other side stronger. Just give yourself time and don't settle for less than you deserve. Looking back now, I realize that this whole ordeal changed me in ways I never expected. At first, I was just furious, humiliated, and broken. I felt like I lost everything: the girl I loved, my trust in people, even my sense of self. But over time, I started to see it differently. Losing Amanda was painful, yes, but it also forced me to confront the reality that sometimes people are just not who they seem to be. The girl I thought I knew was just a facade, a mask she wore to hide her true nature. The biggest lesson I've learned is that trust is fragile. Once broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild without genuine remorse and effort. And even then, sometimes it's better to just walk away and start fresh. I've come to accept that not everyone is worth fighting for, especially when they've shown you they don't value you enough to be honest. I've also learned that revenge, as satisfying as it might seem in the moment, isn't the answer. What truly matters is moving forward, knowing I did what I could to stand up for myself and protect my own sanity. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding my life, better, stronger, more cautious. I still have moments of anger and sadness, but they're less intense. Every day I remind myself that I deserve someone who truly cares, who's honest, and who values loyalty. Amanda's betrayal was a wake-up call, a harsh lesson in what to watch out for. It's made me more aware of the red flags, more aware of my own worth. I want anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation to know this. Don't ignore the signs. Don't convince yourself that love can fix everything, because sometimes love isn't enough, especially when the other person doesn't respect you enough to be truthful. Be strong enough to walk away when you need to, and don't stay in a toxic situation hoping things will get better. Because they won't, at least, not with the person who's willing to betray you like that. And as for me, I'm finally starting to believe in myself again. I've realized that life isn't about holding onto the past, but about learning from it and moving forward. My heart still hurts sometimes. But underneath all that pain is a new sense of hope. Hope that one day I'll find someone who's worthy of my trust, someone who won't cheat, lie, or manipulate. Someone who truly loves me, flaws and all. So yeah, that's my story. It's messy, it's painful, but it's real. If you're going through something similar, just remember, your worth isn't defined by someone else's betrayal. You're stronger than you think and you'll get through it. Trust me, you will.